Growth is a strategy, but virality is not a strategy, especially if you don't have something to manage your business from going viral. So before you think, oh my gosh, want to go viral, think about the process, think about the journey. A lot of people have gone viral and they've crashed because they don't know how to handle that virality. But if at the back of your mind, you are remembering that, oh, this is actual money going into this thing, and if it doesn't convert, that means something is wrong and I need to be on top of it. You're going to be checking that campaign every single day, almost every hour, to see what progress has been made. Hi guys, what's up and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Victoria Abidoye. And in this video, I'm going to be walking you through some things I've noticed within the marketing landscape. Now, I don't talk too much, or I try not to talk too much. Sometimes you just can't help yourself, can you? Anyway, let's dive right in. Now, I noticed something, and this is something that I'm sure a lot of marketers notice. A lot of businesses in Nigeria, not just Nigeria, like across the world, they do not pay attention to strategy. Do you agree with me? Do you agree with me? Anyway, a lot of businesses in Nigeria do not pay attention to strategy, and it's just very interesting because strategy is the lifeblood of marketing. Now, think about it this way. You see the entry strategies that Temu used to get into Nigeria and how much is spent on awareness campaign alone in the initial stages. Everywhere you turn to, you'd literally see Temu. You see influencers doing Temu hauls. You see their ad pop up on your feed. Their retargeting game was strong and very solid. But I'm not here to talk about Temu, am I? Nope. I've also noticed that a lot of startup founders, a lot of businesses are very quick to throw money at marketing. And for the people that don't have money, well, they want something to go viral, they want their brand to go viral, but they don't think through the journey behind what is happening. I kid you not that a lot of people would come and they'll see like a brand doing very well on social media and they'll be like, oh no, I want us to go viral. And the CEO can literally come and say, oh, I want us to go viral. But there's no thought, there's no process, there's no even retention strategy behind all of this virality in that sense. We're going to talk about 10 things to consider or 10 steps to take when you're coming up with a new strategy or when you're trying to build a new strategy for marketing for your brand. And let's get right into the video. But first of all, if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, what are you actually waiting for? Think about it. Your subscription, your likes, your comments would actually let people that need this video see the video. So why are you not subscribing? Tell me. Well, give me one valid reason why. So let's go into the video. One of the reasons why a lot of marketing efforts or campaign in that sense fail is because people look at marketing but they don't look at it from the lens of the business. Now, marketing should be tailored to businesses and their needs. For instance, what Coca-Cola is going to do and would help them thrive is not what MTN is going to do and will help them thrive. What Indomie is going to do to help them thrive is not what a brand like ExxonMobil or a brand like Temu or a brand like Shein will do to help them thrive. Now, when you are thinking of marketing and you're thinking of, oh, how do I best market this product? Because that's how you should think. How do I best market this product? What does my potential user think of, or what is my potential user going through that would make them think about my products? This is how you should think generally when you're trying to market a product. That's why you associate Indomie, which is a food, with hunger. You associate being tired with an energy drink. You associate being stranded with a fuel or a diesel company or a diesel product, etc. So think about the business, right? You first think about the business, understand the business, understand what the business is trying to do, what the business is trying to solve in the market. I know that all the businesses in the world want to make money, but you came up for a reason, to solve a particular problem, a particular need. Understand what the business is trying to solve. Also, it's this period or it's in this time that you think, oh, what's the objective of the campaign that you're trying to launch? What is going to be a win for you from this campaign? I know the bottom line of every campaign is sales, but like, what is an immediate win for you? Is it for 1,000 more people to know about your brand or your products? Is it for 1,000 people to fill your online form to sign, or to say, oh, I want to sign up to, be a participant or to be a user of your products? Is it for actual sales. What is your objective? What is your core objective? What's your key objective for this campaign? Like, it's at this point that you start to think about that. Now, the second thing is your target audience. I actually touched on this earlier when I was talking about what do people think about when they want to make them think of using your product. A lot of people, when they think of target audience, what they're thinking is, oh, what's the age demographics? But your target audience is a lot more than that. You literally want to build a user persona to understand the state of mind of this person. So say, for instance, how I typically go about, creating my target audience or building my target audience is actually in my strategies. You would see target audience, that there's a broad target audience, which is actually not the same thing as demographics. And then there is also user persona. So I always have user persona for every product that I want to create a strategy for. My user persona would have their name, or they might not even have a name, but they'll have an age, they'll have their interest, they'll have a job, they'll have income, they'll have things that they love to do, things that they don't like to do. You want to inquire what this person is like, the job that they do, what their interests are. You have to like get into the mind of this person. Even if you cannot get into the mind of this person, you can look for people that are similar to this person. Say, for instance, somebody that would typically use your product. Let's say, okay, because I'm seeing Indomie in my room, so I'm going to use Indomie. So, for instance, let's say you want to market a product, Indomie, a new Indomie brand, and the Indomie is, let's say, extra spicy, for instance. You want to think of the set of people that like spicy food. Like, this is what will make up your target audience. People that like spicy food. Indians, Nigerians, Yoruba people, they like spicy food. Mexicans. So maybe one of your user persona would be a Mexican that is maybe a 24-year-old or a 20-year-old that works really long hours, or that is a student, doesn't have breakfast. So when the person comes back from school, she's always hungry, or comes back from work, they're always hungry. They also like Mexican food. You also sort of like identify their pain points, their frustrations on like a day-to-day basis. This is basically how you come up with like to understand your target audience, because again, you're not creating the strategy for people, you're creating it for yourself. You're creating it for people that will pick up that strategy and be able to run with it. Because when you come up with a strategy, you're not only coming up with a strategy for like one person, right? You're coming up with it for the whole company. The CEO is going to have a look at it, and the CEO needs to understand, that your designer, for instance, because when you start to create this user persona, it helps your designer create visuals, it helps your copywriter create messaging that these people can speak and understand. It helps your designer create visuals that these people in that sense can relate to. So target audience is also very, very important. It's very, very, very intricate in the process of coming up with any form of marketing strategy. Do not mistake your target audience as a demographics or just an age bracket. It goes down to their interest, it goes down to their income, it goes down to what they like to do, it goes down to where they go, it goes down to their aspiration, their long-term vision, stuff like that. These are things that make up your target audience, and you can now further break them down into sort of like user personas per strategy that you want to come up with. Okay, so in the process of understanding your target audience, you also want to understand what I call buyer resistance. What is that thing that will potentially make this person not use your product, or what is that one thing that will potentially make this person not use your service in that sense? So you want to cover, like, you want to do an end-to-end when it comes to your target audience. So the next thing that you want to look at is your competitive advantage or your competitive narrative. Obviously, there's nothing new under the sun, which means you already have competitors. Now, your competitors probably are selling the same products the same way, or they have similar messaging. You want to stress test all of their messaging and then try to come up with an emotional perspective. Here you'll be working with sort of like a copywriter. Here you want to hit the nail on the head with your sample messaging. Hit the nail on the head, show the exact pain points that these people are facing, and appeal to their emotions. I bet you, like every other person is already appealing to their emotions. So this is where you go with the extra, right? Your competitive narrative. It could be with the story for the brand, from the brand point of view, or it could even be from their needs point of view. Remember that when you're marketing a product, you're not selling the product, you're selling the solution. So how does this thing meet my need, or meet this person's need and my potential users' need at a different level of their buyer journey or their customer journey, however you'd like to put it. So the next thing you want to do is stress test your narrative, right? The one that you specially came up with for the purpose of this campaign. You want to check them out to ensure that people likely to see that message would come back to buy that product. At this point, you're coming up with like multiple different narratives so that the best narrative in that sense wins. Okay. The fifth one, I think I've touched upon it earlier during when I was talking about, picking up a key objective. You want to pick out one objective. Okay. You can have them in priorities, but at each point of the campaign, you have one thing that you're looking at. Typically, what I recommend is when you're maybe launching a new product, your first campaign should be an awareness campaign. All you're trying to do is create awareness for the product. All you're trying to do is get people interested in just knowing about the product. This is what I will call the no strings attached. At another point in time, you can decide that you want your campaign objectives to be edited or upgraded to a leads generation campaign, right? Depending on where the business is essentially, which is why you attack the campaign from a business standpoint, not necessarily a marketing standpoint. So based on the needs of the business per time, that's what the campaign objective would be per time. Then the sixth thing, or the next thing to consider, is understanding your buyer behavior at each point in the journey. For instance, people that are doom scrolling on Instagram, they're probably not ready to purchase. They may be, but they're usually not ready to purchase. So you can use that as an awareness stage for like doom scrollers. That people that are ready to make a purchase, they go to like specific places, like maybe for instance TikTok shop, they go to Google, they go to maybe YouTube to learn some more about the products. So use aligned channels, or use specific channels for specific behaviors, specific predictable behaviors of your buyers. So use specific channels to predict, in that sense, the specific behaviors of your buyers. So say your objective for Instagram is awareness, your objective for Google is maybe lead generation, your objective for TikTok can be sales, your objective for YouTube could also be awareness, people trying to learn more about your product. Okay, the one very important thing that people need to realize, I feel like people don't talk about it enough, is using one message for like all different levels of the campaign and all different channels. Come on. Okay, so this is marketing 101. I'm not even joking. Do not use one specific message for your campaign across platforms. Do not use one specific message for all the objectives of your campaign at different levels of the campaign. Do not do that. What you are doing is wasting money if you do that. Okay, you're just wasting money. You're just holding money like this and putting a lighter on under it, and like that's not going to bring you any return. Actually, like that's a total waste, right? So what you want to do is create specific messaging for specific levels of the campaign. Say for instance, at the moment I'm in awareness phase, messaging for awareness is different. I want to do leads gen, messages from lead gen will be different, because obviously stronger call to actions or a different call to action. Campaign for sale messaging is going to be different. Stronger CTAs, stronger messaging. Also, messages on several platforms has to be totally different. Please do not ever forget this. Messaging for each platform, wherever your campaign is going to be staying or presenting or showed on, has to be totally different. So for this next part, right, projection of your numbers. So this is something I learned not very long ago. When you're asking, as a marketing person, right, when you're asking your boss to give you, let's say you want to run a campaign and you need 2 million naira to run that campaign, you have to show your boss numbers. I don't know how they do it in your company, but where I'm from, you have to show your boss numbers. Now, these numbers are made solely on projections and on the assumptions. I like to assume by 0.01%. In a campaign that I would typically run, what I would tell you is, for every 5,000 or let's say 50,000 impressions, I can tell you that based off of the back end work that I'm going to do with my marketing team, I can promise you a 0.01%. Sometimes I can promise you higher depending on the viability of the campaign viability, the amount that is being put in. But a safe number all the time is a 0 point, is that 0.1 or 0.01, right? Usually it goes, for me, I go from assumptions to, people that take action. So people that click the link, and then from people that click the link to people that actually, move from there in the campaign funnel. So always pressure test. This is based on something that has worked for me. I do not recommend I use my numbers. Please feel free to use your own numbers, to your own research, but always ensure that you're asking the question. So this campaign that I'm launching, what is the success metrics for me in terms of return on investment? What will my return on ad spend look like? What is my ROI going to look like? You might not necessarily know your PPC because it sort of comes up during the campaign. That's when you're able to observe and know what your PPC is, but you can always project. I'm going to give you a list of questions that you can ask yourself to help you in this journey. The first question is, how will this campaign actually scale? The second one is, what is the cost of reach versus expected result? The third is, do we have owned channels, or are we fully going to be a paid campaign? For instance, if you have an Instagram page as a brand that has like a gazillion followers, you don't have to run in quotes paid ads in that sense. Or if you already have a very solid SEO footprint, you don't necessarily have to create another one or start to pay third-party influencers or third-party blogs, etc., etc. At the end of the day, the content is great, but distribution is very, very important. You don't want to put a Instagrammable content on TikTok. Instagram and TikTok are sort of similar, but you don't want to put an Instagrammable content on Twitter, for instance. That would be totally misaligned. So yeah, check that out. So just like I was saying before, right, I've always thought that vanity metrics were not important and like they were just vanity. But on second thought, vanity metrics are actually very, very important in the entire campaign life cycle. Because how do you know how well a campaign is doing if you don't know how many people have seen the campaign, like, once or twice or 3 times? Obviously, Google Analytics dashboard will tell you all of this. Meta Business Suite will tell you all of this when you're doing like a proper campaign optimization, right? You know how many people saw your campaign twice, how many people saw your campaign once. These are things that vanity metrics helps you do. While vanity metrics might not necessarily give you your expected returns in terms of monetary value, it is a first step to establishing trust and building trust with people that have never met you before. So do not always throw away your vanity metrics, okay? Also, when you're doing your metrics, you also want to focus on like your customer lifetime value. I'm going to give you the calculating factor for like all of this that I am saying regarding calculation, but it's important to keep track. Just put like the prompt in Excel, and the Excel is going to help you to be able to measure each projected number and each actual number. Okay. Also, a lot of people leave the middle. They go from like the beginning to the end. For instance, I recently ran a campaign. I was selling something for about a particular price, a lot of impression. The sales number was low. The issue was in messaging at some point. There was also like some broken links in the journey of the customer experience. So a lot of people would try to purchase the products, but they were not checking out, right? So you want to pay attention to the numbers at every given point in the campaign. Like, no number is a waste when it comes to a marketing campaign. No number is a waste. Like, at every point, even when you're in impressions, when you're in link clicks, when you're in add to cart, if you're maybe selling a course or you're having a physical product, no number goes to waste, right? Last thing to talk about is create feedback loops. When you set up a campaign, it's easy for you to leave it alone. But if at the back of your mind you are remembering that, oh, this is actual money going into this thing, and if it doesn't convert, that means something is wrong and I need to be on top of it, you're going to be checking that campaign every single day, almost every hour, to see what progress has been made. So set up feedback structures in that sense. If you have connected your GA4 with, let's say, your website, and you've connected your Metapixel with your website, you're going to see the frequency of how everything is going on that particular campaign, right? always check. For instance, Facebook Meta Pixel is going to update every, I think it's every hour. I'm not very sure. I think it's every hour, but like reduced number of times per day. But always ensure that you're checking, always update your report so that you can always pull it out and say, okay, so as at 3 a.m. this morning, I was at XYZ. But yeah, you need to set up like all of these flows and processes. If you want me to teach you how to set up the flows, let me know. And I'm happy to do that. Okay. It's easy to throw money at the problem. It's easy to think that when you spend money, you will get results. But it's also important to consider every factor in between. Now, these are some of the ways. I lost count. I started by saying 10 ways, but I'm not sure I got to 10 or I went under 10. I'm not particularly sure. But one thing I'm going to tell you is this: when it comes to marketing, strategy is very important. And I believe that this video would help you figure out how to come up with a proper end-to-end strategy to help you with your marketing plans or your marketing decisions or your marketing campaigns as you go. One thing I'm going to leave with you is growth is a strategy, but virality is not a strategy, especially if you don't have something to manage your business from going viral. So before you think, oh my gosh, I want to go viral, think about the process, think about the journey. A lot of people have gone viral and they've crashed because they don't know how to handle that virality. And thank you so much for watching this video to the end. If you did, if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, I ask you again, what are you waiting for? Why haven't you subscribed? Please subscribe to this channel, leave a message, turn on your notification bell so that you can be updated for every time I leave a new video. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.